give out grants for doing research, right? Or even a private company may have an incentive because the public thinks it's really cool to develop, to spend money on research and development just because it furnishes their public reputation. Another thing you can do is you can have prizes, or you can purchase patents. So one thing that Michael Kramer has recently suggested is having the government come in and buy out the owner of a patent so that they can put it into the public domain. That both increases their profits and reduces the dead weight loss potentially. And prizes could do something similar. So in the history of the United Kingdom, there was a lot of prizes offered for doing things like figuring out a way to measure the longitude of a ship on the ocean so that people didn't get lost, or to create various vaccines in the French Empire. And also the French government bought out the patent for the original photographic process. It was patented, and that was reducing the number of photographs people were taking, so the French government thought it was really important and they bought it out. You can also give subsidies for purchasing some innovative product. So this is a very common argument for green technology. One reason people say we should subsidize hybrid cars or whatever is not just that they're better for the environment, but that it will encourage the development of more hybrid cars if they know that they can make this profit off of that market. Another issue is exactly the one Matt was emphasizing, which is how long should the patent be versus how broad should the protection that we give be. And there's a trade-off between those things. Another issue is that there's these standards for getting a patent, that it has to be novel, according to some government bureaucrat who approves it, useful, like you can develop something practical based on it, and not obvious. And those are in some ways related to breadth, but it's also not even clear what are meant by those things. And there's an issue of how we should interpret them. There's also issues of how the courts should help divide profits between the original person who creates an innovation and someone who builds on top of it, right? And those people might merge together. They might create a patent pool. And the courts can also affect how profits get divided between them based on how they enforce intellectual property protections. And for each of these different tools for encouraging innovation, there's a different trade-off involved. So for research and development subsidies, or for using a corporate tax, which would actually reduce the profits that companies make, the benefit of giving more subsidy or less tax is that it encourages more innovation. And it helps internalize the inframarginal consumer surplus. Even if they're already earning the profits, they're not getting the consumer surplus. If we subsidize research and development, that may help internalize some of that. However, it also gives more money to rich people, and so that's the downside. So there's a trade-off between those two things. The problem set as you explore patents and buyouts and stuff, prizes and buyouts and stuff like that. But the basic trade-off there is, on the one hand, a prize doesn't create any of the dead weight loss, right? So it's a much more efficient way of rewarding. But on the other hand, there's no guarantee that you're giving a prize to a genuinely valuable invention, whereas the patent system helps align the value that an invention receives with how much people are really willing to purchase it, right? And so that helps target the money better. There's also this trade-off between length versus breadth. So you might think that it's actually a really good idea to have a very narrow patent that lasts for a very long time, because then you don't have to have that much dead weight loss. If the price is sort of close to cost, you have a lot of profit and not that much dead weight loss. But there's some other ways people have tried to think about that stuff. There's also, issues about how to design patent pools, which can help reduce the dead weight loss. Because if a bunch of patents get put together in a pool, it's a lot less costly to bargain over, getting access to them than if you have to bargain with all the people on their own. But there's an issue of figuring out how to make sure that the different people in the pool get a reward which compensates for their costs of developing it. Because if that doesn't happen, then there's not going to be incentive for people to create the patents in the first place. And interpreting those criteria about non-obviousness, usefulness, etc., basically nobody has any idea how to do that so far. So that's just a big open question in economics. Great, so there's a really tough problem set due a week from Thursday. Good luck with it. Consider coming to some of the workshops today and tomorrow. And come to office hours today if you want.